there. Welcome back to the art room. I'm really glad you could make it today. Today we're out in the heart of the gnome forest, hoping to find some gnomes and maybe make it all the way to Gnome Cave. Come along with me. Well, I think we found the entrance to Gnome Cave, but I don't see any gnomes. Wow, it's even better than I thought. But where are all the gnomes? Wow! Whoa! Here they are. Well, let's get back to the art room and start making our gnomes. Okay, welcome back to the art room for our gnome building project. This is going to be a good one. I built 3 of these little fellows. I just couldn't resist. That first little fellow with a twisty hat, and then I've got another guy with a stripy hat. He's wearing a sporting flower on the side of his. And then one other one, kind of a grumpier little guy here. Had a blast doing it, and they're all painted up, and I also antiqued them. So I'll show you how I did the whole thing and take you right through it. So let's get started. This is actually our 3rd project with the Crayola Air-Dry clay, the Birdie Shack episode that we did, a cool bird a while back, and then at Christmas time we did a dove Christmas ornament, and that turned out great too. So go back and take a look at some of those if you really enjoy making clay projects as I do. So I'm just going to dig out a nice healthy ball of this air-dry clay. Wonderful stuff to work with. And I'm going to start off by rolling it into a ball shape. Once it gets kind of smoothed out, I'm going to lay it down on my paper mat there. I've got a little water cup there. And I'm going to start massaging it into kind of a pointy shape, like a cone shape, I guess you would call that, rolling it back and forth. Hey, there he is already. We practically got our gnome already. You can see him. So after I do that part, I'm going to make a kind of a clay snake here, roll it in my fingers a bit, and roll it out on the table. And this is going to be the brim of his hat. So I'm just going to bend that around the tip of his his little top of his hat now is what it becomes. And I guess you could go higher or lower, depending on how much face you want to have on your gnome. And I think some of mine are a little bit different. So I'm going to take a knife here and or any kind of an instrument you might have and blend that together so that it stays put on top of his head with my knife there, and just kind of massage it around with my fingertips. Kind of gently going around and forming the hat as I go. And some of my gnomes, I have a little bit bigger hats, as you saw at the beginning. So this little bit I'm going to pinch off kind of a jelly bean size for his nose. Before I hook it on though, I'm going to get a little water on the tip of my finger and rub that in, make kind of a gluey kind of attachment point for my gnome, so he's got a nice nose sticking out. So this part next here, I think I'm going to add feet. Most of my gnomes don't have feet, but I think for today's gnome, I'm just going to put a couple little tiny feet stuck on there, just so he'll be a little bit different and kind of fun, like he's standing up on a table. Okay, so when you make the hair, the beard and mustache, if you're going to do a guy gnome, that is, here's a couple of tools you can use. A cheese grater, a meat grater, whatever, and a piece of a screen I got, and if I shove that clay through the screen, I get this wonderful texture that pops out the other side. And if I want to make my beard out of that for my gnome, all I have to do is just lay that right in there. That's one good method of doing it. Here's another good method. Just take your clay, pick out the part of the cheese grater that appeals to you and shove it through, and you get these wonderful snaky kind of hairy bits that come out for your gnome. But for this one, I'm going to do a little bit different way here, kind of like the gnome that I showed you at the beginning, one of the gnomes rather. And I'm going to cut out a mustache shape and go up and around, and kind of try to form it into a little gnome mustache. That little part in the top there, that little half circle, that's where his nose is going to go. Let me zoom in here for that, right, and I will try to point it up, give him kind of a pointy mustache. I've got a nice little tool here, kind of a wire, that I'm going to draw some hair lines in there, kind of incise those with my little wire shape. Excuse me. And then adding some more texture too as I go. So a little more water on my finger, and let's attach that. That's great. Let's attach his little mustache here. Every gnome kind of needs a mustache, don't you think? And I'll tuck that all in nicely so that that stays put. And I think I'll reinforce my lines here on his, with the individual hairs on his mustache. And over here too, just so he looks kind of, I like that. Okay. So when you do the beard, I'm going to get a little bit more. Now I could have just stuck with the mustache, but I think I'm going to do a beard too. So I'm going to hammer out a little pancake, and kind of like a cookie cutter type of thing. Let's smush that hat down there so he looks a little, oh yeah, he's starting to really have some character now. I'm going to cut out a beard shape, kind of a little Santa Claus beard, I guess, and go underneath there. That might be a little bit too big. Let's cut that down just a little bit. Okay, and okay, that's pretty. And then I'm going to get my knife to create a really nice kind of hairy texture, I think, in it, with some of these great up and down lines. Kind of give the illusion that he's got this nice big hairy beard. You add a little water is kind of the glue for the air-dry clay, so it'll stick on a little bit better, and really mush that into place so it doesn't fall off. Put a little tip on the end of his beard, why not? And I think I'm going to carve a little mouth out of there with my little tool that I've got here. You could be using anything like a paper clip or a little pencil or whatever you have as your little clay tool. I just happen to have this little pointy thing, and I'm going to dig that in and kind of open up his mouth a bit, I think. Oh yeah, I like that. Maybe he's singing some kind of a gnome song. That's what he's doing. And open that up a little bit. So I've got to put a little bottom lip here with my knife tool here, so it looks like he's got kind of a little bottom part of his mouth there sticking up. And hey, let's do a little buck tooth too, why not, like a little middle tooth. And I'll just get a little tiny piece here, and let's close up on that. I'm gonna chop it off carefully. It's so small it's hard to hold on to almost. I'm gonna cut the top off there, and then I'm gonna use my I'm gonna use my wire to make kind of a tooth mark there, the division of two teeth, and let's see if we can stick that in our gnome's mouth. Oh yeah, very good. That's great. Okay, tuck it all into place here, and yeah, okay. He may not be a very intelligent gnome. I'm not quite sure. That tooth kind of puts it into question whether he's a really smart gnome or not. I'm not quite sure. But hey, let's decorate his hat a little bit with, you saw that on my first gnome that I showed you. I'm going to take a little piece of the clay and make a line down the center and some feathery marks on the side. Okay. And let's stick that onto the side of his hat. Okay. Oh, yes. And I'll just make sure that stays on there. Kind of looks like the quill of the feather, too. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, well, it's been a couple of days now, and I've let my little gnome fellow dry up, and he's looking great. So time to make some decisions about how I want to paint our gnome here. And, you know, it's really up to you. There's so many great color schemes you could have picked out or could pick out. But I've got my paint brushes set aside and my acrylic paints. If you don't have acrylic paints, you could use watercolor. That would be all right, too. But I love acrylics. So I'm going to start off with a red hat, kind of like the idea of a gnome having a red hat, kind of a little cousin of Santa Claus or something. Maybe, maybe that's what I'm thinking about. But the red hat just kind of gives him a really nice kind of a gnomey look, I guess. And getting up underneath the brim of the hat, that's kind of the tough part. And we'll go back and we'll make some adjustments and touch-ups after that. So, okay, that's the hat. Let's see. I want to go into his feather next, so I think, you know, I've already done a yellow feather, but I think I'm going to do it again. I just like yellow as that feather color, and I'm applying that. Okay, so for his skin, I found that if you mix white and a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow and keep working that back and forth, adding and subtracting, and you'll come up with a pretty nice flesh tone for your gnome. So that's what we'll tackle next, kind of getting in there and trying to find those places in his face that are going to be skin colored. So it kind of involves jamming my brush down in there around his hat. I know I'm going to get some paint where I don't want it to be, but I'm going around the back of his neck to kind of create the illusion that he's, you know, kind of got a whole three-dimensional head there, and a little bit on his bottom lip. Okay, and his color of his costume, I think I'm going to do a green here. Green I haven't used on any of my other gnomes, so I think that'll be neat when they're all lined up together. And I've got them all lined up in place. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and into his beard and mustache with white acrylic as well, and his little buck teeth. Don't forget that part. And into his beard. Oh, he's looking good. He looks so happy, doesn't he? And oh yeah, and the little feather, little top of his feet there. And let's retouch some of those bloopers that we made around the hat. Okay. And what else? Oh, I can't resist. You know, I'm going to paint the tip of his feather blue, just for fun. So there he is. Okay, well, I've let my gnome dry for a couple hours, and I'm back. And this is the neat part. I really like this part where we're going to antique our little guy. And so I'm getting into my chalk pastel set and picking out a nice kind of a brown and a soft paintbrush. And what I'll do is get some chalk dust on the side of my paper here and just get a little bit on the end of my brush. And very gently start to see if I can get some kind of nice brown tones. Oops, a little bit too much there. You can always rub off what you don't want, though. And I'm going to give it a nice kind of a old look, I guess, if you will, or kind of an antique look. And the nice thing about it is the chalk kind of reveals all those nice little marks in the clay in his beard and the little strokes that we put in when we were forming the air dry clay, and a little bit of red there, a little chalk dust on the end of his nose, just to kind of give him a, kind of like he's been out in the cold maybe, or he's got a ruddy complexion. So finally, Rust-Oleum clear, or any other kind of clear coat you have, to kind of highlight all of our hard work here. I'm just going to spray a little bit on and preserve the chalk mainly, but preserve also our paint on there. Our little gnome will be around for years to come. So, oops, better not touch it too soon there. So let's set him out and see how he looks with the rest. There he is. There he is. What a good-looking group of gnomes. Really enjoyed that project, and I hope you did as well. Well, okay, that's going to wrap things up for our gnome project. But before we go, don't forget what we always say. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you've got something to be proud of. You're an artist. So stick with it, and we'll see you back here next time in Mr. Shay's Art Room.